Welcome back, everybody, to the Millennial Outliers podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Ardren. With me, as always, is my partner in crime, Justin Deal.
What's up, Ty guy? How we feeling?
Doing well, brother. Doing well. So before you continue listening, make sure you go to iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. We're on there. Please like and subscribe. Listen to our episodes. You're definitely going to get a bunch of takeaways from them. So if you don't mind, like and subscribe, and let's get to this episode. So with us today is a new guest, Mr. John Lorenzo, who we've both known for probably, 5-10 years, I would say. And we brought John in because he is an entrepreneur. He owns his own business. And let's get started, man. Yeah. How you doing, John?
Hey, guys. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast today. I really appreciate the opportunity. So Millennial Outliers, I guess it's all about kind of being a millennial, and we're all entrepreneurs, kind of the outliers in that little group there. Part of my story is I'm a Penn State dropout. I went to Penn State for 2 years. It was my dream school. And I said, hey, I'm going to be an engineer. My dad always told me, you're going to be an engineer. And then I ended up engineering a lot of drinks at parties instead. And but you know what? It all comes full circle. A few years later, here I am, business owner, growing our business up to 10 people. And my mom actually brought it up to me probably about a year ago now. It's like, what you got kicked out of Penn State for is what you're kind of doing now. And I was just like, you're right, Mom. I'm glad you finally see that it wasn't just a big waste of money. But, Penn State, it's where I learned to connect with people. I was the rush chair of my fraternity. So it was all about, bringing people into the fraternity, making them feel comfortable, getting them to join. And that's essentially business development. That's sales right there, right? Getting that customer to trust you, connecting with them on a personal level, and then saying, hey, all right, are you ready to make that sale? Awesome, let's do it. So went to Penn State for 2 years, engineered a whole bunch of drinks, threw some parties, got kicked out, went home, and my entrepreneur journey started when I was 22, and I took over the job. That was my first job in high school. It was a company called PostNet. And it's a franchise, it's a national franchise. At the time, I think they had around 500 locations. And my location in Sicklerville, it just wasn't doing great. And I always wondered why it wasn't doing great, because there was also another store probably about 15 minutes down the road in Washington Township, and he was one of the fastest growing stores. And our stores opened around the same time. So I was just like, why does our store suck? And this guy is 15 minutes down the road, and he's one of the best in the country. So I studied him, and I was just like, all right. It looks like PostNet is more than just like a FedEx office where you can come and get your copies and your shipping done. What he focused on was being a business center and serving their graphic design and printing needs. So I was just like, okay. I see what we're doing here. So in 5 years, we focused solely on really trying to grow the graphic design and printing business of PostNet. And in 5 years, we grew it to be a top 50 in the country. And then I realized that nobody knows PostNet as a graphic design and printing company. And I also got tired of them telling me what I can and what I can't do. I was like, what? I'm bringing you all the ideas. I'm coming up with all these ideas. I'm running my own marketing campaigns. You guys aren't helping me build this business. In fact, your hands are in my cookie jar and you're just taking every dollar, a piece of every dollar that I make. So I got frustrated and I said, you know what? We're going through a breakup at the moment, like in my personal life at that time. I went to Mexico. Drank a bunch of tequila, looked out into the ocean. I said, screw it. Let's hit the reset button. Let's do this all over again and take what we learned and apply it to our own business. So I came home and looked at my staff and I said, we're closing up shop. And my staff was just like, great, we're all out of jobs.
Yeah, right.
But I said, hey, trust me, guys. We're going to do this bigger and better than we ever have. I've got a plan. So our plan was to basically close down on July 4th weekend and eventually reopen as TwoTwo Creative. And the name TwoTwo Creative came about because it was me and my little brother and Felicia and her little brother who were the original 4 employees or team members at TwoTwo Creative. We say 22 instead of 22 because it was those 2 families. But at 22, that's when I became an entrepreneur. My birthday is on the 22nd. Felicia and her husband got married on the 22nd. Everything just happened to revolve around that number 22. So here we are 6 years later. We're doing about $1 million in business and grew our team to be about 10 people strong. And now we're trying to figure out, okay, we did it, but still not enough. Now, how do we get to 2? How do we get to 5?
Wait, hold on. Because I feel like we're skipping over a lot of really good things here. We're kind of going a little fast with. So let's jump back to, how did you go from in between college, right? So academically ineligible, you leave. What happened between that and PostNet? So because we like to concentrate on the story as well, right?
Sure.
There's somebody's out there, they're going through a similar situation. The quick timeline, what was the pain? What drove you to actually get into PostNet, and how did you come up with the capital?
Yeah, so when I left Penn State, my parents were like, you can't just be a Penn State dropout. You have to keep going to school. I'm first generation American here. I'm firstborn. My parents are from the Philippines, and education and the Asian culture is extremely important to them. Mm-hmm. And me being the eldest of not just my family, but all of my cousins, I kind of was the one who was supposed to set the example. So didn't exactly set the right example. But my dad and my mom were like, hey, you got to do something. So I said, all right, I'm going to go to Gloucester County College. I'm going to go for business administration. I'm going to figure it out from there. At the time, it was mostly just to appease them. And I knew like business administration is something that I could apply to like kind of anything.
Yeah.
Not sure where it was going to go, but sounded like it was a good idea. And at that time, my boss from that PostNet, he was just like, hey, come back. He loved me as an employee. But going into that, like I think about 1.5 years in, he was just like, hey, this isn't working for me. I can't do this anymore. So we actually sold it to absentee owners. And the absentee owners needed a full-time manager. So while I was at school at Gloucester County, I was also the full-time manager at that location. And then another year passed, and he's like, hey, this isn't working out. I'm not making money fast enough. You're doing a really awesome job, but I'm either going to close the doors or I want to sell it to you. So I didn't want to see the doors close because I was working so hard to build it. And I saw that other store that's down the street, and they're growing, and we're like not catching up yet, but we're making progress. I was just like, man, it's a shame. Like, I want to make this happen. So I went to my parents. And I said, hey, guys, I have this opportunity. I think I could really make this into something, and I like being in charge of my future. I'm a big part of you get out what you put in. Yeah. And I've never been one for failure, especially if it's something so important to me. I knew I had staff that I've hired at that store too at that time. I was like, I didn't want to just let them down or let myself down. So I told him, I was like, hey, I really think I could do this. Here's my plan. I need a little money. And my parents heard me out, and they said, okay, we'll loan you the money. And that loan is honestly one of the things that drives me because I was just like, man, my parents at that time too, my dad was the only one working. My mom was taking care of her parents. So it was just my dad taking care of us. So I was like, all right, I know they need that money. Like that's probably their nest egg. Mm-hmm. That's their retirement fund.
A lot of responsibility with that money.
A lot of responsibility to just give it to a 22-year-old kid who's taking over a business that's technically failing. So I knew they rolled the dice, and I was just like, hey, I got to make sure that they rolled the right way. Yeah. So that's what drove me at the beginning of like, hey, we got to work whatever hours it took. We got to learn as fast as we can. At that time, I was also going to school. When I finished my business administration associates, they wanted me to go to Rowan, and I went for like a year almost. I took an entrepreneurship class, and that was also the same year that I became an entrepreneur myself, and I absolutely hated that class. I was like,
it was like fake.
It was fake, man. Exactly.
You're like, what is this textbook? It's not actual experience.
What is this professor telling me?
This professor's like giving us all this fluff, and like I'm looking around, and these kids are like eating it up, and I'm like, this is not how it happens at all. So I like went at it with her one day, and I was just like, hey, you know what? All due respect, that's not how it happens. Yeah. So I'm gonna drop in your class. And I went to my parents later that day, and I was just like, hey, at the end of this semester, I'm gonna finish it out, but I can either go all in on this business, or I could go half-ass on both. Yeah. And risk losing that money. That you guys entrusted me. And I was just like, I need to focus. Yeah. So they said, all right, do what you got to do. And again, that was another driving force of like, all right, we got to make this happen. We can't let my parents down. Yeah. They've given me, really have no reason to trust me to make this happen because I haven't really proved myself outside of getting kicked out of Penn State. Yeah. So I was like, all right, I got to make this happen.
Yeah, a couple things with that. So, because we share a lot of similarities in that, oldest, messing up in college. And you said something about the example. And I think one thing that you kind of, it's easier to see now looking back, but we did set an example, and it was just what the hard path was. Yeah. It wasn't what the traditional route was going to be, because that's not the material we were cut from. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, just for people that are paying attention there, so he wasn't, I mean, you could argue he wasn't handed anything, right? He was at the right time. He was at, risking at a business that he had built leverage in. People believed in him, so he had proved his worth to the community to even have the opportunity to buy it. And he had enough conviction and know-all to then talk to his parents about it, get the money, get that business started. So a lot of times, I only say that to say this, people think that it's like these things just kind of just happened overnight, and that there was no struggle, and there wasn't game planning, and there wasn't, sleepless nights or stress and anxiety. Yeah. And a lot of the story, that's why I wanted to cut back to it, because I knew we were missing a lot of the meat. We kind of gave the Instagram highlight reel right there, right? True. But we want to get into that nitty gritty. So now you've taken on the business, right? You have kind of this debt over your head that's not like tied to a bank. It's tied to your parents' well-being and future. Yeah. So lead us, how does things go with PostNet? I know you go into the Rev Co-Work, so take us through that journey now.
Yeah, so PostNet was like, we grew it to be a top 50 in the country, and it was really just through hard work. And in that time, I met Felicia, who was a graphic designer for me at the time. And we became a great yin and yang. I was more of the front of the house. I'm much more outspoken. So I was the one to bring business in, and she was the one to go and get business out. And I think it's really important that you have that and know, are you better at the back of the house of your business, getting the work done, or are you better at the front of the house of the business? So like if you're out there thinking about starting a business, look yourself in the mirror. Are you better at the front of the house work or getting this stuff out? And it's okay, because you can't be great at both. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I would be here and have the success that I have had if it wasn't for Felicia and running into her. So from there, it was always, all right, I'm out there networking. I'm building my reputation. I'm on all of these committees and boards, proving that I'm not just this 22, 23-year-old kid, kind of like a salesperson out there because my company told me to. Like, this is my company. This is my paycheck. Every job that we get in is I'm eating what I kill. Yeah. So just 5 hard years of that. And then I just realized, like, I'm never going to get out of this hole, because PostNet, they tell me where I can open up shop. They tell me, hey, you can move there when your lease is up. And I was just like in these locations that were costing astronomical amounts of money. They were taking, I think it was like 7% of every dollar that we make. And they were just putting me in just losing positions. So I was just like, you know what? I can do this better. I don't need this brand called PostNet that nobody really knows in the area, because there's only 2 of us. And we want to be a graphic design printing company. We want to help our local small business community grow their businesses through our design and printing services. And that's not what you get when you hear a name called PostNet. So fast forward to closing time, went through that breakup. I said, all right, let's do this.
So real quick, how did that break up? Because this was PostNet's a franchise.
Breakup. Yeah.
They're a franchisor, right?
Yes.
So how did not your personal breakout. Yeah. The breakup with PostNet, how did that go? How did that go? And, because I'm sure there's similar,
work, right.
There's people in your shoes that are probably in the same boat. Like, I have a franchisor here, and, a lot of times franchisors, they're taking the royalties and then, they're telling you what you can and can't do.
Right. They were like, hey, why are you closing? Like, you're growing. You're being one of the best. You're becoming one of the best PostNets in our system. And I was just like, you know what? It's just not for me. And I kind of lied my way out of it. I was just like, it's just not for me. I don't see myself really going much further with this business. You guys know I'm one of the youngest franchisees in the system. Where I thought I was going isn't where I think I'm going now for the next 5 years. So I kind of just gave them a bunch of fluff.
And honestly, they were cool letting you out? And
not really. They were like,
that's where we're trying to get to here.
They learned a lot of lessons from me, that's for sure. Because after I left and they finally uncovered kind of my plan,
what you did?
they were like, okay, we cannot let any of our franchisees off the hook like they did with me. But
so they didn't have that in place when you did.
Not as strict as they do now.
So you cost them even more money because that attorney's fee went up. They had to update those those contracts.
Agreements.
Almost a year after they came after me for my non-compete, and it took them almost a year to catch up to them because I created this co-working space, because in the retail location that we signed a lease for PostNet, I personally guaranteed that lease. So it was in my name. So I couldn't just walk away. It was a lot of money.
Yeah, it's in your name, right?
It's in my name. So I was like, all right, how do I open up shop without getting caught? And at that time, this was like when WeWorks were getting like really popular.
Yep.
So WeWorks, and I was just like co-working. I was like, renting space, creating this business community. And then a light bulb went off in my head. I was like, I can create an office in the back of this place, put the new company in there, and just focus on building a community of business owners. And that would be my business development plan. And it kind of worked. And I even had I had so much support from like ex-PostNet employees or franchisees. And they would literally call me. I'm like, hey, John, I think they're sending a secret shopper to your location. And I was just like, what?
Everybody get down.
And they were like, yeah, I hear that it's going to happen on this day. So I literally closed up shop that day.
Wow.
I was just like, closed for a special event. And, that's just another testament to business is all about personal relationships.
Yeah.
Amen.
You know,
you got that inside track.
I had that inside track. I had so many people rooting for me. And they're like, I get what this kid's doing. Like, he's just trying to build a future for himself. And if that wasn't with PostNet, that he shouldn't be stuck there.
Yeah.
Right. So that was my plan. Is I created this co-working space, Rev Co-Work. It helped me create this whole business community. And what I learned during that process is that, I love my Chamber of Commerces, but a lot of people think they're not big enough for a Chamber of Commerce. It's a lot of banks, it's a lot of attorneys, a lot of insurance companies, it's a lot of bigger businesses that a lot of people see in those chambers. And what I learned is that there's so many startups and there's so many small businesses who wanted to connect with each other. They just didn't know how. So through this Rev Co-Work co-working space, it wasn't a big location too. If you're thinking about WeWork's like a whole building. My Rev Co-Work space was literally like 1,350 square feet. It was a retail location. I didn't even have a conference room. I literally split the space in half. And I said, hey, my marketing company with my printing equipment is in the back of it. And in the front was literally 2 long-ass tables with TVs on the walls and some desks. And I really mostly just focused on, I said it was a pilot program. I was like, let's see if we can build a community. Let's see if people want desk space. Let's see if they want to go from going to that Starbucks that was literally next door from our location and paying, I don't know what, $8 a latte and working there all day, to let me now pay $100 a month for a seat, any seat at this co-working space. And what we learned is they don't. And I think that's why you see a whole lot of WeWorks in trouble right now, because they don't. You don't go from, let me buy my coffee and I'll be good all day. And I think I learned this week that Starbucks will give you free refills on iced coffees.
Good to know.
Good to know. I know, right? So hack right there for any startup entrepreneurs. Work at Starbucks, get an iced coffee, ask for a free refill. They will do that for you and continue working. Yeah. But it was a great pilot program. But what I really learned from that pilot program was just how strong or how lacking the small business community was in just any kind of community in our area. So that was huge. I have some of my best clients still today that have come from that co-working space, that little pilot program. Trifecta Therapeutics in Glassboro. Oh, yeah. They now have 2 locations and they've got more in the works. Some of the GLS painters, there's so many businesses that I met there from startup phase with me that we've all grown together. And it's so cool to see that I was able to create some kind of a community and we've all stuck together still. I think you and I, Justin, met from that thing. You came to one of our events, one of our Coffee and Connections. And here I am on their podcast now. It's so cool. And, that's mostly the part that I love about being an entrepreneur, about being in business, is that when you become an entrepreneur, it's really lonely. Unless you come from a family of entrepreneurs, probably most of your friends are employees. Yep. And making that switch in your mind from employee mindset to an owner mindset is really challenging and really lonely. So by creating that community of small business owners and like-minded individuals, that's why we've been able to keep this bond so strong, because where else do you go and find other entrepreneurs? Unless you're brave enough to go door to door and be like, hey, I'm a local entrepreneur. Are you a local entrepreneur? Do you want to go hang out and grab a coffee or a beer?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen, really. Like, nobody really has the balls to go do that. So like creating that community was so cool. And that was our little plan to get out of our non-compete. They came after me hard. Yeah. They did. But they cost me a lot of money, and I just played chicken with them. I was just like, cool, lawyer up. Awesome. Here's my lawyer. My lawyer's over in Cherry Hill. He helped me out. I literally met him from a BNI group here, and they helped me fight him until they were like, hey, you need a Colorado attorney, because they were based out of Colorado.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And then my ex-PostNet staff over there, they were like, hey, I heard what you're going through. You need to talk to this attorney.
Yeah,
like,
they farted over.
Thank you so much.
That's why it pays to be a good person, man.
Right? You never know when you need it.
Absolutely.
And they helped me out, and we literally played chicken until our court date. And they were like, all right, we're not actually going to go to court, because that's going to cost us even more money.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
only the attorneys win there, right?
Exactly. And we're like, nobody's going to win here. We're both going to lose. I was like, all right, well, what do you want? And they're like, an extra year of your non-compete and $5,000. I was like, serious? Do you know how much money we spent and how much time we spent, and that's all you want out of me? I was like, fine, here, take it and leave me alone. But I had to stay low profile again for another year. But I just kept doing that kind of co-working space.
Yeah.
And luckily, I was really honest too with my landlord. I was like, hey, this is everything that's going on, and I need you to work with me. I'm going to be a little late on my rent payments, but trust me, I'm going to pay you, because I need to pay this attorney. Like, I got to go keep that going so that I can keep this going. And he was just like, okay, no problem. I appreciate your honesty. And I was just like, hey, in the meantime, can you look for a new tenant for this place and get me out as soon as possible? And he was just like, all right, I'll start looking. And just honesty going, that made such a huge difference.
Yeah.
And that taught me so much. And that's how I approach everything now. It's just like, hey, if something goes wrong, an install doesn't go right, a print job gets messed up, just be honest. We're all human, but you better do everything that you have to do to make it right? Even if it costs you money, because people are only going to say three things when they ask, hey, where did you get your sign done? They're either going to say, go to John because he killed it, he was awesome, or they're going to say, if they had an okay experience, they're like, Google, someone's around there, I could do it. Or they're going to say, definitely don't go to John. He messed up my sign. He didn't do anything to do it right. So like when you're a startup entrepreneur, or you're just an entrepreneur in general, I always just think, if I'm faced with a situation where I'm not sure what to do, what's going to give me the positive outcome, right? What is going to make sure that this person says positive things about me even after this situation? And that's just how I go about life.
That's it.
There you go.
So why don't you jump into, so we'll get into the evolution of where TwoTwo's gone, but when you started, everybody makes the joke, print is dead, right?
Yeah.
So why don't you speak on that a little bit? What trends have you been seeing over the last few years? What's working for folks?
Yeah.
What's worth to spend our money on?
So like print is an interesting business because it's everywhere. I'm looking at Justin right now. If you're listening, Justin's got Millennial Outliers shirt and a hat on. We will always need gear to wear, right? Mm-hmm. We're always going to need shirts. You don't want to be that HVAC company that shows up to somebody's house and messed up clothes. You want them to show up in some branded things. So I don't think print's going anywhere. You're still always going to need a sign. Mm-hmm. There's never going to be a time where even on a vehicle, we replace it with digital signs. Print's not dead, and new businesses are starting up every single day. And I've really grown to love printing because it's tangible. There's just something different about when we design somebody's logo and they see it on the screen, they're like, oh, that's cool. But when we give them their first business card with their logo on it, they're like, oh, this is real.
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah, it's real. It's still that tangible thing. So I don't like print's never going anywhere. And over the years, we've just been adding to our printing services. But now what we're really trying to do is figure out, okay, we offer everything. We offer apparel. We offer marketing materials. We can do your trade show signage. We can do your wraps.
Giveaways.
We can do your giveaways. Yeah. We can do literally any kind of printed graphics we can do. But we need to, as a company to scale, figure out what are our entrees and what are our side dishes. What are the things that we want to be known for that is worth our time and what's scalable? Because there's only 8 hours in a day if you want to have some kind of work-life balance. What services can I offer that's actually scalable? And what are just going to be some side dishes? So that's kind of the stage that we're in right now.
So let's jump into that. So what are the now entrees that you're finding? We've seen a ton of evolution, I'd say, since the pandemic, right? To be fair, everybody's least favorite word of pivot. You kind of had to do that. People were in their houses. They weren't handing out business cards, weren't wearing as much swag unless you were me, because I'm always in hats in my own gear. But outside of that, how did you come up with what were those entrees?
Sure. So we tried to figure out what was what got us the highest return on our investment of time. What can we do the most of in a certain amount of time? And what we figured out is we have kind of two sides of our business. We have the printing side, and then we have the creative side. So I have 4 full-time graphic designers on my team. And logos has actually become one of those things. We have designed a 4-step process to how we do our logos. It goes through discovery and then design and revisions and final delivery. We've been refining that process to figure out, okay, how do we almost productize this so that it's easier and faster to sell, and then easier and faster to kind of get through the production line. Even something like a logo, there is a process that you can create to kind of be a lot more efficient. And also just the cost of everything these days, it's just too expensive. You can't just keep hiring employees because if you can't give them competitive, livable wages, they're just going to jump ship and find the next job. Yeah. So on one side of our house, logo design has become one of our entrees for sure. On the printing side of the house, it's still a lot of the marketing materials, but the newest entree that we're really focusing in on is the wraps. And we can do everything from windows, walls, and vehicles. That is something that has become scalable for us because people will always be getting new offices. They will always be getting new vehicles to add to their fleet. So that's just constant new business that we can work on.
And a couple shout outs there real quick too. I saw the Mastercraft wall you guys did. Shout out to Mike. That looked great. I was just with Levins the other day. That's Sneville Technologies truck.
Oh, you saw his new truck?
Yeah,
nice.
I mean, the GMC, shout out to them too. The truck's pretty nice as well. But that wrap, man, it does. It looks great.
Thank you. And it's like that is, we want to make that one of our entrees because that's a moneymaker for people. As soon as we put graphics on our van, every time we're in front of a job site working on it, someone off the street comes by and says, "Oh, you do tint, wrap, and all of that stuff. Can I get your card?" My guy gets stopped at Wawa all the time. Like, "Oh, this is awesome. I need these services." So we like that service because it's one of our printing services that definitely makes our customers money. Yeah. And we're all about trying to make our customers money because if they grow, we grow. So at TwoTwo, why I really, really love it is because I don't really just think of TwoTwo Creative as like a graphic design printing company. On the surface it is, but what I see it as is we're a business community. We've worked with over 1,600 businesses in the last 6 years. I think that's more than a lot of the chambers of commerce have members. Yeah. And as we grow, we're going to really try to figure out how do we harness that. We've got 1,600 people that we should be connecting because if we can connect them and they can do business with each other or just make a relationship, well,
everybody wins.
Everyone wins, and we become more sticky. Yep. So retention, not a lot of people talk about retention with their business. That's one of our retention plans. If I can figure out how to get you new business or make a connection for you, that's going to be, we're not just your printing company. We're literally your partner. I don't want to be a vendor.
Yeah, I think that's the way people should think about business we miss, right? Like I say that all the time with Payday. My goal really isn't to get you for the payroll side. That's part of what we do, but I want to support you in every other way. So having you on a podcast, having you on a TV show, bringing you to networking events. I was just literally calling clients the other day because somebody needed a bunch of subcontractors. And I was like, I don't know how to use tools. So I know all those people. Just started making intros. And it's funny, people aren't used to it. They'd be like, "Wait, what? You're my payroll guy. Why are you calling me about an investor buddy who needs a plumber?" And I'm like, because I know everybody. I want everybody to work together. Yeah. And that's really, I feel like, where the value is. If all you do is sell people things that help you, you're not really making that impact in the community, right? It's about having that ripple kind of flow out and making everybody more proficient and efficient.
Yeah,
Correct.
You get lumped in with every other payroll company,
right?
ADP, paid checks, whoever, by just selling them a service. Whereas, if you're helping them grow their business, like what payroll company or insurance agency or design shop does that for their customers? Like that's something that they're going to remember. And to your point, it's going to help with that retention and stickiness. It's going to help with referrals coming back, from you, while also holding the client.
Exactly. And it gives you something to talk about with your clients when they don't need your services. Like
That's a good point.
Each one of us, I offer printing services. Tyler's in insurance. Justin's in payroll. You need those things. Everyone needs those things, but they don't need it every single day.
Everyone has them.
Right? Yeah. And that's another thing, right? Like a lot of people probably don't switch their insurance or payroll companies until something happens. So how are you staying top of mind and creating value with those potential prospects in the meantime when they don't need your services? It could also, how many times has it probably happened in your guys' business where maybe they're not your customer, but they're one of your great referral partners?
All the time.
They send you business, right? Because like maybe sometimes like, hey, they have a one of their people that they work with is their client. So they want to make sure they support their client, but that doesn't mean that just because, say another payroll company is their client doesn't mean that they can't also help you with referrals. Right. And if you're only just constantly pushing your services, well, they're not going to think about you. There's another way to win. Instead of opening up, like a lot of people need to open up their mentality instead of just hunting one client, create a referral partner who's going to get you more than one client. There's way more value in that. And if you do a good job, I think in all of our businesses, we're in the same boat. If they grow, we grow. Right? So like a lot of people, I think that's like a starvation kind of mentality.
Scarcity mindset. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't even go into an event or anything like that. Like, I don't even think to sell, I've known you for 6 years. I've probably never asked you to do your insurance because to your point, I'd rather, a referral system or relationship is a lot greater than me selling you one policy or, whatever.
Exactly.
And most people don't get, like Gina would always, my wife, she would ask when I got home from events, like, did you get any business? I'm like, that's not what I was there for.
My wife does that too.
Not, like, and that was in the beginning years. Like, she knows now. Now she's like, hey, did you make any connections for people?
She still does.
She knows that's like my
wife
thing.
Still says
that's
that.
where I get a lot of my fulfillment is bringing value into the rooms that I go. And how do I make this room better, right? That's what helps everybody for the greater good. And it's a psychology thing. It's a karma thing. If I just constantly give to you guys, eventually you're going to be like, damn, Justin's always showing up for me. I got to try to do something for him. Whether it's payroll or you follow me and you're like, I see he's doing the fitness stuff, so I'm going to send him this cool thing. Or, Dev just sent me, I posted the other day, like I was reorganizing my closet and he sent me like the
shoe thing. I saw that.
And I was like, dude,
I've been looking at them for like ever on Amazon. And I haven't bought them for
it's one of
it's
those,
something like you just, it's like
you just don't want to spend your own money on because you're like, whatever.
Yeah.
But those kind of things, like now again, top of mind. And now it's like, how can I help Dev?
Exactly. It's like, all right, John, Justin, Tyler, they helped me get this new client. How do I help them back? And sometimes it's a client in return. It's a referral in return. Or it could be something cool, like they bought something on Amazon that you've had
golf outing that they invite you to.
That's the stuff that I hope more entrepreneurs get their minds around. I know it's hard to get new business. And when you're starting up, you're just like, where am I getting that next check? But you can't be short-sighted just seeing that next check. Do you want your business to be around for 5, 10, 20 years? Do you want to pass it on to your kids? Well, if that's the case, you better start thinking long-term vision, not just next check.
Yeah, you got to have that foresight to, look ahead 5, 10 years, like you said.
Yeah.
Now on the rat thing, I know you're big into cars like me.
Yeah.
So it's probably pretty cool, you doing the whole rat thing because it's also cars is like a hobby to you too.
It is.
So I'm sure you probably enjoy that.
And they're all new models.
And are passionate about
for the most part, right? People are like, oh, here's the new GMC truck that we're gonna drop off. Check this out and wrap it.
Dude, it's so cool when they literally go from the dealership straight to us. And we're like, did you even show this to your wife or your girlfriend? They're like, no, I just need you to get it done. I'm like, awesome. Let's go.
Yeah.
No, I'm a huge car guy. I love cars. It's one of my passions. It's
Toyota guy.
Yeah.
And
me
Lexus.
and my dad grew up just gearheads, just always wrenching. My dad took me racing. we build cars in the backyard, and I'm happy that this business has kind of created some opportunities for me to live that passion out one way or another. I definitely don't want to be fixing cars.
No.
It's pretty cool to rap on.
Yeah. I'm good on that. But yeah, you were at the auto show, right? The Philly Auto Show, promoting your tint business and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. We were at the auto show promoting our tint and wrap services, and that was really cool. It's all a process to figure out where you can connect with those clients the best.
Yeah.
That one was okay, but it's mostly just consumers.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure out, like, all right, how do we reach a lot more of the businesses? We got a really cool connection lately. Chick-fil-A had just started doing deliveries.
Oh, yeah. I've seen their little vans.
So
yeah, they love you.
Yeah, they love us.
Yeah.
Apparently, there is a company down in Mississippi called TwoTwo Creative, and they literally have the accounts for national accounts for fleets. So they only work with national companies that have maybe 100 or more vehicles, but they don't do all of the wrapping. They do the design and the printing, and then they look with local wrappers to do the install part. So fingers crossed, don't want to put the cart before the horse, but we have an opportunity where we might
into
get
existence, baby.
a whole bunch of
Did they reach out to
cars
you
here in November? Yeah.
Or they reached out
and
to
they
you?
reached out to us because we had a relationship with one of the local Chick-fil-A's here, and the person that came out to install the graphics on their building sucked. They did a terrible job. So they kept going back to dig and say, hey, we need this fixed, And they're like, all right, we'll send the other people out. And they were like, no. Call John at TwoTwo Creative. John and Felicia have always done right by us. They're the only ones that we want to go fix our windows. So that just created an opportunity for us to show what we could do. You know, all we're asking for is an opportunity to shoot our shot. We shot it, slam dunk, and they were like, hey, you guys are awesome. We have all of this other work that we potentially might need in the coming months. Would you be open to doing that? And I was like, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Love that.
Exciting stuff.
Again, it's all relationships.
Yeah.
Now, one of your, I love to use that, the restaurant kind of
Analogy.
comparison, there you go, analogy earlier. So I know that's one of your other passions outside of cars, and you've been kind of teasing the bringing back stupid good eats. So
yeah, dude.
why don't we talk about that a little bit, Mr. Foodie?
I just love going to new restaurants. It's also kind of like my business development tool to get in with those restaurant owners. But me and my girlfriend, we're big foodies. We love finding those new restaurants, figuring out what they're really good at, and just sharing it up with all of our friends and followers of where to go. But yeah, food is the shortcut to my heart for sure. But it's also just, I'm a big family guy. You guys are big family guys. Food has just always been a way to connect with family and
it brings everybody together.
Sit down. And so I want to bring our clients out to these kind of like stupid good eats lunches and say, hey guys, we're going to meet up at this said new restaurant. Let me know if you can make it, and try to do it that way. Try to bring more than just one or two people together. Trying to make it like more of like a family kind of a setting, so that people can meet each other and try new food. Support a new restaurant.
Give a couple plugs if you don't mind. What are 3 restaurants in the South Jersey, Philly area?
Spot.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot. I know.
Our one that always comes to mind in Philly, it's over in Passyunk. It's called Ember and Ash. It is this really good. They fire, smoke everything in the restaurant. Their meats are amazing. If you are a carnivore, highly recommend that place. They have really good drinks as well. In the local area, I love Korean food. Dalsot House is one of my favorites.
That's right.
Shout out to
70,
Craig.
Right?
Yep, right on 70.
I still haven't tried that. I got to get over there.
Oh,
those
dude.
wings look.
Did you just tinted them, right?
Yeah, we tinted those windows.
I see that building. I'm past that all the time. And I've always seen it. I'm like, it looks nice.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Dalsot House, definitely one. And then probably a hidden gem that not many people know is Kitchen 519 down in Runnymede. Really good new American spot. He also loves smoking meats. He's got a smoker out in the parking lot.
They're like farm to table too, aren't they? It's like locally sourced.
Everything's locally sourced.
Where is it? In Runnymede?
Right up the street from Kid Rips, whatever that main
I forget what that
street
road is.
Oh, yeah. It used to be a bank, right?
No, it used to be a gas station.
Oh, a gas station.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking of the restaurant.
You would definitely
that used
just
to be a
drive
bank.
right by it. It's very unassuming, but it's killer. I would say like once a quarter, Gina, and it's BYOB.
Yeah.
Which is always nice.
Yeah,
you're a big restaurant guy too, Joss.
Oh yeah, love just checking.
I haven't been to a restaurant in like 3 months.
We do a lot of the bougie ones when we get out, just because we only get out so often. So I'm like, if we're gonna do it, I need the whole. I'm an experienced guy.
Yeah,
I want to create the memories.
Yeah.
But John's always got
the
TikTok
best food. Video.
Yeah, well, of course, Gotta have the recap.
Oh yeah, there's a new one in Collingswood. I think it just opened up. It's Paloma.
Oh, okay.
That one's really good. It's like modern Mexican with a little bit of European fusion
big
in
Mexican
there.
guy.
Yeah.
So
Tacos
good.
and Mars.
Just had Chipotle for lunch.
So good.
I live off that.
This will blow Chipotle away for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
So, real quick, so we were talking kind of, big picture moving forward. So, what do you see? What's like the 3 to 5 year plan now for TwoTwo? Where are we going?
Yeah, I was listening to one of your podcasts earlier today, and I forget who the guest was, but they spoke about going from being an owner-operator to an owner to an investor. And that really struck a chord with me. And I think that's kind of where I'm at these next 3 to 5 years is I was an owner-operator. Now I'm trying to become a real owner where we're trying to build out that team, build out that organizational structure so that it's a real business. It doesn't require me to run and generate revenue. So that's really where I'm at. Probably in these next 3 years is my goal is to really be a real owner. And then hopefully 5-10 years that's when we start to make that transition to investor. So this definitely is not going to be the only thing that I do in my career.
Yeah, the foundation. That's where people, I think Ty and I talk about all the time. People have that misconception of you need 7 income streams to be like this super successful person, but most millionaires have that, but they perfected one thing.
Yes.
And then they diversified. And I love that you say like being the owner, and the only way you do that is growing through people and empowering them.
Yes.
So that basically means next 3 years you're looking hire management teams, just have people that can really handle the day-to-day, front of the house, back of the house.
Yeah.
And execute it at least 70 to 80% of what John Lorenzo would do.
Correct. Honestly, when I'm not in the business, they operated way better than John Lorenzo could. I have now become the bottleneck.
Yeah.
People always want to come talk to me, and it's great, but John doesn't get the work done anymore. So if you really want your projects worked on, go to Felicia, go to your account manager. They are the ones who are going to get your stuff done. But if you're talking to me, I'm juggling like 10,000 things like you guys are.
Right now you're the face.
I'm the face.
You gotta, you gotta evolve into, back of the house,
correct,
back of the scenes, and get new faces out there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the transition that we're in, and I keep telling my guys right now that we're a $1 million food truck. We're a $1 million food truck that needs to convert to a restaurant.
Yeah.
When you're a food truck, a lot of the times you're at the window taking the orders, collecting the money, and then you're moving over to the fryer, the griddle right next door, and making that. And that's where we need to make that switch. We need to grow up for being this awesome food truck to being a restaurant. And hopefully we can make that happen. I know we will.
Yeah, loving all the food analogies. Definitely getting hungry.
Big
now.
food, that's exciting stuff. But so before we end here, I ask every guest this. So I know you talked about the Penn State, that whole thing, but I guess give us another failure that you've had in your past that really taught you a lot, and like what was that lesson?
Rookie mistake. I kind of heard that as like a rookie mistake, something
or
that
it could
I
be
wish I
in
could get
life,
back.
when you were younger, any failure that taught you,
Not many that pop up to mind, I'm sure, if I thought about it more. But one of the things that I should have done earlier is pay myself. A lot of entrepreneurs, when they start, they're going to be like, I'll get my paycheck eventually. Reinvest. But I was lucky that when I started my business, I was 22 years old. I was able to live at home. My mom would never let me go hungry. There was always food in the fridge. They didn't charge me rent. They just said, hey, get your life situated. So I was very lucky and very fortunate in that sense. But it was also my downfall where I never paid myself. I would only take what I needed. And you can't sustain that, especially if you are an entrepreneur and maybe you have a family already. Well,
it's possible.
It's possible, but it's not possible if you have real bills.
Yeah. If you have kids and stuff, it's impossible to. That's why a lot of people, like to your point with the employees, maybe you're in your 30s, our age, right? You're a millennial, you're an employee, you got a family, you got a mortgage, you got, car bills, whatever. You got a ton of bills,
dice, man.
Am I going to go out on my own and not make money for the next year? A lot of people can't do that.
No,
you know,
and like sometimes people have that entrepreneur vision of like grandiose, right? Like I got to build the next Apple. Like, do you need to build the next Apple? How much money do you and your family really need to live a rich life? You know, your rich life. Everybody's rich life is a little bit different. It's not all the same. So maybe that number is 100,000. Maybe that number is 2. Maybe it's 3. Maybe it's 500,000. You got to know what that number is, and then figure out, is this business able to get me there? And what is it going to take for me to go from owner operator to investor? Because there's stages.
Yeah.
What I love about that too, especially as you're saying in your 20s, because you know I do a decent amount of stuff with high school kids and like some of the colleges, and that's like the question is like, you know, where should I be? What should I be doing? And I think your point is take the risks when you're young. I mean, before you're 37 with 4 kids and married, and it's like then you have roots and you can only be, you know, so flexible in that. But it's like learn all the lessons, because if you can, if there's already a roof that's provided, if there's going to be even ramen noodles, you know, in the cupboard, whatever it is, that is the time to risk it all, because you're still so young and you can rebound.
Yeah.
The later you get in life, the more the bills stack up, the more responsibilities you carry. You can't rebound as quickly. And a lot of times, Ty's point, you're too afraid of failure that's where all of your energy goes. And you know, where they say where focus goes, energy flows. So if you believe you're going to fail before you start, you're right.
Yeah. It's not going to work. So yeah, if you're young and you're starting this business, do it now.
Yeah.
Because you have so much time to recover. And even like all the skills that we learn as entrepreneurs, those are skills that you can take to a job. Those are real skills that are valuable to any company. So even if you fail early, if you do, you're going to be able to recover. And those skills that you learned, remember, learning is a lot of times failure is just the best opportunities to learn.
Yeah.
So
don't 100%.
be afraid to fail.
And even if you are older and you have that urge to start a business, you know, even maybe just getting started with, say you're working an 8 to 5 or whatever, using that other time, you know, there's how many more hours in the day and weekends and everything to just get up and running, so to speak, and start to see that it is true. You can do it. And then you can gradually, you know, kind of go into whatever you're passionate about.
Especially like nowadays, life is so freaking expensive. If you have a job that can cover your benefits, like that's huge. And then how much more money do you need? Like what is the gap from where you are right now, income wise, to where you need your rich life to be? And can you make that gap happen with the amount of hours that you have left in your day? You don't have everybody just wants to build $1 million business, $1 million, $1 million. You don't need that sometimes. Like right now, I'm talking to, we're doing a logo project for someone who is a nurse, and she actually helps mothers with the importance of breastfeeding. So she's like the boob doctor, kind of. She helps with lactation. Yeah, there you go. A lactation consultant. She's a lactation specialist.
Got 19 kids, you know.
Yeah, Justin definitely knows a thing or two about that. But I'm talking to her, and she's like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm like, why? She's like, I'm 60. I'm like, kudos to you for still having that energy to even think about doing something like this.
Yeah.
She's like, you're right. Like, I was like, you don't have to build a big old business. Like, when you think about your business, when it's successful, do you see other employees that are lactation specialists that are helping the clients? And she was like, no, not really. I'm like, okay. So you need this business to work for you and to kind of make that gap. So it's not as big of a risk. You're not trying to replace your nursing salary and benefits with a new business. You're just trying to supplement it and live the best life that you can. Now, that's what people have to be realistic also when it comes to their business. Is sometimes it's not building this behemoth of a business. Sometimes you just need a little help living that rich life.
Yeah. And I mean, people would be surprised if they just kind of look at their time and kind of see what they're doing with their time, because, you know, one of the other biggest, I don't know what the word is, but I guess going against like opening or starting their own business is that, and if they are working full time, well, they don't have enough time. But then, you know, you see clips all the time, like, look at what you're doing after that 5 o'clock. You know, you're getting dinner, maybe throwing the TV, you're watching Netflix. You just spent 5 hours really probably not doing much.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more time in the day and weeks and months and so on that, just kind of look at what you're doing and trying to figure that out and where you can fit in that time.
If you work an extra hour, right, Justin? An extra hour a day by the end of the week, it's almost like you worked a whole nother day.
Oh, 1,000%.
Right.
Well, they even say
just that math. Yeah.
Just that one day.
That's 8 hours. It's a full day, right?
I think they say if you do, Jesse Itzler talks about it, 18 minutes a day on something will put you in the top 1% for performance.
Yeah, for like a year or something, right?
Yeah, for a year straight.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, you're right. And I think that's what, I think we've all done 75 hard. Have you done that in the past?
He's on it. Failed it.
He's on it.
But
I thought you were doing it right now.
I'm trying.
I think one of the biggest lessons you learn from that, right, is how much time we waste.
Yeah.
You have more than enough time. And that's what you're always the most efficient when you have a very concise, this is what I need to accomplish today. And you check those boxes. Have to.
Yeah, you got to plan it out.
Yeah, everything has to be like already pre-thought mindset. And that's why I tell people, they're like, oh, I think I'm going to try 75 hard. I'm like, well, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
Do it. Just show up, do it, make it a non-negotiable.
Figure out your schedule.
Yeah, because if you don't know what book you're reading, and if you're like, oh, kind of with my diet,
I'll figure out.
Like, I'm going to go to this networking event still, and you're not going to go walking at 11:30 at night. Like, yeah, you have to put the time and energy into it.
Live an intentional life. That's what you got to do. Live an intentional
and
life.
live it loudly, baby.
Yes, sir.
Love it. Well, I think that's a great way to sign off then. So thank you so much for listening to us here. If you did last this long, before you, again, end this episode, go like and subscribe. iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, all the platforms. We're on there. Please show us some love.
Hit that little bell, too, on YouTube.
So
get all the notifications. Hit them, Joe, with the...
Awesome sauce. Well, John, thanks so much for being on, brother. It's been a real pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely.
Justin, sign us off.
Best day ever, y'all.
Best day ever, fam.